Hello Neowin, we're back with part 5 of our super smartphone showdown, where I'm pitting 5 flagship devices from each of the major Android smartphone manufacturers against each other. And so far we've looked at the design, which is won by the HTC One X, and also the display, won by the HTC One X. We've looked at the software, which is a combination win between the Galaxy S3 and the Optimus 4X HD. Fortunately, we excluded the Droid Razr a bit there. And in part 4, we looked at the performance, and the clear winner there was the Galaxy S3. But what we are coming back here today for is a look at the camera. Of course, a very important feature of all smartphones is the camera. We're just going to go through one by one, show a little bit of the features, and get to do some sample shots. First up is the LG Optimus 4X HD. All these cameras here are capable of 1080p recording from the rear camera, and all of them have 8 megapixel cameras, except for the Xperia S, which has a 12 megapixel camera. Anyway, here we have the camera interface for the LG Optimus device. I am using quite a strong backlight here to get some good lighting so we can take our sample shots. There's not a remarkable amount of features that are available here. There are some cool things such as the time catch shot mode, which I believe takes photos before and after you press down the shutter, allowing you to choose the best shot available. There's a couple of things you can do to get the quality change and all that. Anyway, we are going to take a shot of this bookcase, and at the end we're going to compare all of them. So, one thing I noticed that was strange about this device is the very weird focusing that appears very laggy. I wonder if I can show it to you now. It's reasonably slow and very dodgy. Anyway, that is the Optimus 4X HD. Over here, the Samsung Galaxy S3, again 8 megapixel shooter on the back, Sony made, same or a very similar sensor is used in the iPhone 4S, but we will take a look right now at the camera. Yes, here is the camera on the Galaxy S3. There are some cool features of this camera. For example, you can take HDR shots. You can also do a smile shot that detects when you are smiling, and a burst shot where basically you can hold down the shutter button and it takes a whole bunch of photos. As you can see here, it has taken a lot of photos there. So that is one of the cool features that you can use the Galaxy S3's camera for. And we will take our sample shot here of the bookcase. Again, we will show all those photos right at the end of this comparison. Here we have the Motorola Droid Razr and its camera. Again, it is an 8 megapixel shooter capable of 1080p recording, and you can see the front facing camera there, like most of these devices here. Probably the worst featured. There's really no incredible settings here. You can take panorama, adjust a few things, but to be honest, the camera settings here is not particularly amazing. So we will go and take the sample shot here. That was almost certainly blurry because of the terrible autofocus that Motorola has employed. It's very slow and not very accurate for some bizarre reason. here we have the Sony Xperia S, and as you can see at the top here, also a front-facing camera in the corner. And on the top here, you'll see a dedicated camera button, which is of course very handy. You can just hold it down, takes you right into the camera application. In terms of features, there are actually surprisingly not that many for a very high quality camera. We'll turn it to 12 megapixel mode. You have a few scene options, such as the ability to take 3D sweep panoramas, probably the most outstanding feature on the device. Basically, you move the device left to right, like so, and it takes a 3D photo that you can sweep around. It takes a lot of time to get the photo from that mode to look right, so you sort of have to tweak that a lot. Again, there's, you know, a whole bunch of settings here, smile detection, all that sort of stuff, but quality controls, there's surprisingly few options for quality. So basically you're stuck with the automatic mode. Anyway, we'll go ahead and take our sample shot of the bookshelf. It is very handy to have that top shutter button. Two-stage shutter button, it's very, very handy. And we'll move on to the HTC One X. Again, there is a front-facing camera at the top over here. If my camera will decide to focus. Alright, I've got my device, my camera focused. I'm going to take a look at the HTC One X. This easily has the best features out of all of these cameras here. If you touch up the corner, you get a whole bunch of live effects that you can apply to the shot you're taking. Some of them are Instagram-like, as you can see here. We'll set it, of course, on no effect. You do also get a huge number of options here. Not only through that, but also through the scene mode. You get panorama, group portrait, landscape, whiteboard, HDR, and also, as you can see at the top here, slow motion video, which is very cool. You can shoot at 120 frames per second in the video mode, something that a lot of these other cameras here are capable of doing, but this is the only one that actually employs the feature. So we will take our sample shot and move on to the other thing that we want to check out, which is low light. After a very short jump cut, I will turn off the lights and we'll be back to check out the low lighting of all these cameras and how they perform. Jump cut. And we're back. You'll notice it's considerably darker here, considering I turned off a couple of the lights we had on. And you notice down the back there, it is fairly dim, and that is where we're going to be taking our shots from. Again, we will be comparing these at the end. The HTC One X has the largest aperture, largest aperture, coming in at 4 f-2.0. That took it with the flash. I should probably turn that off. It's a very quick, very responsive shutter, which is a feature of many Android 4.0 devices. It's a bit very laggy, this camera, in low light, unlike the One X that I used just previously, and you find that is also the case with the Motorola Droid X here. Droid Razr. It is reasonably laggy to take shots. Again, poor autofocus being a factor there. This is another very responsive and generally good in low light shot. Just on the screen it looks a bit warm right now, but we will see what it is truly like in just a second. That appears very, very dark on my screen. Very dark. So we'll have to see what that is like. Anyway, we will jump on the computer, check out these shots, and I will deliver a verdict through there. See you shortly. So we have here the sample shots from each of the 5 devices taken in good lighting. Now, the LG Optimus 4X HD straight off the camera turned out to be reasonably blurry, indicating that there was some sort of shutter speed problem that wasn't allowing it to capture, because I don't recall shaking the camera particularly much. The Motorola Droid Razr in the bottom middle is reasonably washed out, and it is sort of tinted green, which is very, very strange, so that is something to look out for. In the top left, the HTC One X, it appears to be very bright and very vibrant, but that is not necessarily capturing the colors that were used. It's probably a bit over vibrant, as if it was perhaps capturing a bit too much light, a bit overexposed. The Galaxy S3 is a bit warm, as I might have suspected while taking the shots. And while that is the second best shot, the winner definitely is the Sony Xperia S. It appears to be the brightest and most vibrantly coloured and accurate to the scene that was actually being shot. And it didn't seem to be bothered by the very bright aqua-coloured book in the middle, which seemed to throw off the Galaxy S3 a bit. We'll now check out a close-up shot of each of these shots. Alright, here we have the 100% crop compares of each of these shots. You'll notice immediately that the LG Optimus 4X HD is very blurry, like I mentioned before. So surprisingly, the Galaxy S3 and Xperia S show just a bit of blur, but thanks to the fact that the Xperia S has 12 megapixels, you don't notice it as much when resizing it. Surprisingly, the shot that was the most crisp was actually the Motorola Droid Razr shot. It also sort of has less grain and seems to retain more details than the HTC One X, but it seems to be a close call between those two devices in terms of the actual picture quality. If you were holding each of the cameras perfectly still, you'd still probably get the best shot out of the Xperia S again, because you have the 12 megapixels there, but again, it just shows the shutter speed is working much better on the One X and the Droid Razr. We'll now get to the low light shots. Okay, so here we have the low light shots from each of the 5 cameras. You notice that the LG Optimus 4X HD again loses out because it is not only the darkest shot here, but is also not even in focus. The HTC One X and Sony Xperia S are both probably the brightest out of each of them. Probably the HTC One X has the slight edge here, except the Xperia S exhibits better colors in low light situations. The Droid Razr again comes in as the sharpest. Pretty sure that is to do with a very quick shutter speed, so that is probably bumping the ISO, and it does look the most grainy out of all the shots. The Samsung Galaxy S3 also appears to be warm, tinted warm, which is something that I noticed also in the first shot. So I would have to overall award the definite winner to the Sony Xperia S, because at this stage it clearly does have the best camera out of all the devices. Although if you were going for features, the HTC One X does outdo all the other cameras in terms of what it can do. I was particularly impressed with the 120 frames per second video, which we can show you a short clip of right now. As you can see, it does look pretty cool. So yeah, HTC One X for features, Sony Xperia S for actual camera quality. Although really, the One X, Xperia S and Galaxy S3 all have very good cameras, so you shouldn't really be too disappointed with either one of those devices. A bit disappointed with the LG Optimus 4X HD, but oh well. We will see everyone tomorrow for the final episode of the Super Smartphone Showdown, where we will crown a winner to one of these devices and look at some of the tidbits. So thanks everyone, and see you then.